Welcome back. As you may have seen in previous videos, I've got a DVD out there. It's called Building Your First Computer. If you're looking at this screen, it means you've probably built it and you're having a problem. What I'm going to go over here is basically your top 3 issues that you might have go wrong when you go to boot that computer up for the first time. Number 1, no power. There's a couple of obvious ones for that one. Is the switch turned on and the power supply in the back? That's number 1. If this is a European area, do you have the power supply switched to 220 instead of 110? Are you in the US and do you have it on 220 when it should be 110? Those are some of the easy fixes. Otherwise, check inside the motherboard. Is everything hooked up to the motherboard that gives power when you hit the button? Do you have all of your wires hooked up when you hit the power button on the motherboard, that it registers that you've hit the power button? Let's see, what are some other issues that could go with that one? As it may sound silly, is it plugged in? Is your power strip on? Basic troubleshooting sometimes is as simple as that. If you still can't get it to boot, it is quite possible you have a bad power supply. They do have about a 60% fail rate, brand new right out of the box, regardless of how much it cost you. You could have bought one for $20, you could have bought one for $200. There's still a 60% fail chance on any power supply you purchase brand new. So that's another option. But I would definitely check to make sure you've got your jumper set properly for your on-off switches. I would check to make sure that you are making a full solid connection with any of the plugs from the power supply, and then just check the back of the power supply and ensure that indeed the switch is on and you're at either 110 or 220, depending on your respective area. Well, that's that one. So the next possible issue would be that your system is not posting. Posting is power on self-test, is what that stands for. Basically, how you know it's not doing that is if you hit the power button, you hear all your fans and everything turn on, but that's it. You don't hear anything else. Nothing displays on the screen, and it just sits there at that point, and all you hear is the fans blowing. If that's the case, there's various possibilities as to what you can do to fix it. 1, you might just need to turn it off and turn it back on. Maybe there's sometimes that fixes it. I've had that happen a few times. Maybe you need to reset the BIOS, or maybe it was never reset. To do that, you pull out the battery, or there's a jumper called JP1 on the motherboard that you switch over one spot and then power it on for about 5 seconds and then shut it off, switch it back to JP1's original place, and then try and boot it. Sometimes that works. Otherwise, you may have a bad ground. In order to fix that, you have to pull the power. You have to pull everything back out of the system, lay it on a static-free bag, which should have come with your motherboard. So I hope you didn't throw that static bag away. Set everything on that. Just set it on the floor, on the table, wherever you did, and then have everything hooked up to it and try and power it on. If it powers on at that point, you had a bad ground, and then all you have to do is just put it back in and make sure that none of the metal's touching where it shouldn't touch. That's the complicated one. That's the one that's a pain, because then you have to almost rebuild the whole computer again. That's the second most common problem. The third problem is beeps. Every BIOS has its own beep pattern. Every beep will be different. You can actually look up online what different beeps mean. I couldn't tell you what they all are. Generally, your most common beep is a long, short, short. When you hear that, your RAM's not seated properly. Turn it off, open the case up, pull your RAM out, put it back in, make sure everything snaps back into place. Make sure it all locks down properly. Then put it back together and try and power it on. If it still doesn't work, it's quite possible that either A, your RAM is bad, or B, you purchased the wrong RAM for that system. Double check to make sure that you've got the right RAM for that motherboard and processor combination. Usually, when you build a computer using parts from, say, Newegg or Tiger Direct or mwave.com, they'll give you a way to make sure everything matches. you could always call them too. You could always call Newegg or wherever you purchase from and ask them the compatibilities if you can't find it yourself. Those are your top 3. There's numerous other things that could occur. You know, your video card might not be seated right. Your sound card might not be seated right. Your plugs for your hard drive might not be seated right. You know, a lot of the times you'll have a SATA card, or your SATA, you know, it won't be plugged in all the way, and you'll see that it says on the screen, you know, no hard drive found. And that's the case. You just want to check all your wires and make sure they're reconnected. If you have any other issues, I just hope you have another computer system handy that you can look up some stuff online, because there's a lot more possibilities than what I've given you here. Hopefully you don't run into any of those problems, though. Truthfully, you really shouldn't run into any of the major problems if you've bought How to Build Your First PC from Amazon.com. Alrighty, well, good luck. Bye-bye.